Today we're going to use the power station we made last episode to produce all the stones we want. Welcome to a new video on the Create World, and today we're going to be working on producing all the blocks that we can get out of cobblestone. But before we do any of that, we need this area to be a bit more cleaned up. We can start out with an extra bridge over the railroad, and then I need to do a little bit of terraforming for the pathway and the station. The station will be on this little platform over here, and we'll be using a lot of chipped tuff blocks because I like them and they're nice and clean. And I don't really know what to do for the actual station building, but I do have an idea for the portal. The portal itself is a bit of a sore sight, so we're basically going to be recreating the power plant, but in a tiny shape. We'll start out with some deep slate for the floor, and then some bricks for the walls. And for the roof, a little bit of the teal blocks that we've been using for, well, the power plant. The telejuice tank that we have can stick out of the roof, that's fine. And you know what, we can incorporate some extra pipes here and there to make it a part of the building. And that's about it. I do like this aesthetic, and I think I'm going to use a similar thing for the station. Some nice little arches and a clean Viridian roof will be perfect. We can use a belt from the power lines to power some displays, and that's going to be enough for now, because I don't know, I want to do all the decorating when I have more of like a vibe in my mind. Now we're going to get up to the top of the mountain and build up a cobblestone farm. We've built the farm before at the starter base, but I'm going to make it a bit bigger. It's a design by Batsy von Fangies. I'm not going to explain how it's built, and if you want to build it in your own world, their videos are in the description below, so go and check them out. I've already done most of the boring work of the building, which is making the box of the building. Now we're putting in the shape of the roofs, and I like the idea of having these white barn style roofs that have some structure in the middle. And to create some depth on the back wall, we can extend the top structure a couple of blocks. We're going to trim off the roofs with some andesites and some industrial plating. For the roof itself, we can use some more Viridian blocks and warped wood blocks. Now it's just a matter of adding in some large windows, and then we can just let the farm back up. Once the storage is full, it should turn itself off, which, I mean, is pretty handy so it doesn't overload. Outside of the building, we can extend a little platform that will house an elevator tower. That way people can go up and down to quarry levels. For the tower, we'll use quite a bit of these andesite supports, and once we're up to a nice height, we can put up a floor, add some supports and our axle, and a little roof. This won't really be a functional elevator, it's purely decorative, so we don't have to power it from the top. We can simulate a power on the top with some water wheels and flywheels. Then we'll just take some belts all the way down to the shaft and power it from the bottom. We'll put it at a very low speed so the fly and water wheels turn ever so slightly. And that's that for the cobble farm, I think. I'll probably come back to this and do some pathways and a little bit more of detailing, but I need to figure out how we can take all of this cobblestone down to the spot where we're going to be processing it. And I think monorails are the answer for that, so let me go and get some. With the monorails acquired, I think it would be very cool to have these shipping containers that are basically fancy vaults to be moved around in a circle. I do want to see how they move before I put in a lot of effort and time, just to end up looking like trash. So let's set up a little test track for this to do a little loop-de-loop. Okay, it's looking pretty good. Now let's put in a track all the way down. The problem with this is that the hill, or well, the mountain is pretty steep, so we'll have to dip down almost immediately after turning, which I hope doesn't look too clunky, but we'll figure it out. The track is in. I'm going to put in some temporary stations here and there so we can see how the container moves. And then we'll figure out some of the supports that we need. I want the supports to have the same vibe as the elevator tower. So the plan is to use a lot of these supports, but I think the main body of the tower is going to be made out of the industrial ones. The top of the support tower is going to be andesite supports with some girders and a nice little platform. And then it's just a matter of bringing down these 2x2 legs till we get to the ground. We'll strengthen these legs by connecting them halfway up to each other, and that's pretty cool. I do need to add about 7 more of these, so let me get to those and I'll get back with you once I'm done. We're a couple of hours in, and I'm done with all of the supports. The end of the loops are going to be the 2 stations. They will be pretty simple since, well, they're just meant to be filling and emptying the containers. And this one will get some girder supports, a teal roof, just like all the other buildings. And we can bring up our stone with some belts. That way we can fill up the container from the top. And now that's ready for it to go to the processing units. Talking about processing units, we can get started on those as well. I did a little stream where we collected all the materials that I need, and I've already got all the digging done since that's a pretty boring part of this whole construction thingy madoobob. So let's get a floor in and get started on this place. So the first section here does some pretty basic processing. We're turning cobble into gravel and splitting that into 2. Half of it goes into another set of crushing wheels and we turn it into sand. Half of the sand plus all of the byproducts like clay and flint is going straight into storage, and the rest goes on to be hauled into soul sand. Then we're washing that for quartz because we'll need some in section 2 and 3. And apart from that, we're also turning cobble into regular stone. And that's section 1. Let me get onto section 2 and we'll go over it in a second. This second section is producing diorite by using cobblestone and quartz. And on the other side, we're producing andesite by pressing gravel and flint into a bucket of lava. And that's all for section 2. It's pretty simple, but very extensive because the processors are pretty slow. So we need more units, well, to get a better rate. And now we need to get a second floor in so we can build up section 3. Section 3 is making the 3 last blocks that I want to build and produce in this episode. We're combining diorite with quartz to make granite, which is also being ground into red sand. Not that I'll use a lot of red sand, but might be handy one day. We're also combining andesite and diorite into tuff, so we can have all the pretty blocks that we want. Now, all we have to do is add a bunch of threshold switches to read the contents of all the drawers that we have. Those will be used to turn off each section at a time. To do that, we'll need to add some end gates. The tuff, granite and red sand will be turned off on their own, since they're the last section of the farms. For section 1, we'll build up this weird shape that basically will turn off one torch once all of the redstone signals coming from the storage drawers attached to the section are turned on. We can make a similar thing for section 2, but since there are only 2 signals in that section, the shape is going to be a lot smaller. For the building around this eyesore, we'll simply use the same steps we always do. We start off with a box made out of bricks, or to be slightly more accurate, 2 boxes on top of each other. And the next step is the roof. For the lower roof, we're going with a flat design that can be walked on, and the top roof is the same barn style green and teal shaded roof that's trimmed off with andesite. we can spruce it up a little bit more with some smokestacks to break up the shape of the roof. We do need some windows to get a lot of natural light into the building, but that's pretty much done. We do have to do something about the station though. First things first, we'll put in a bit of a platform and a girder construction to support it all, and then I'll get on to building the actual station, which will probably be just a copycat from the cobblestone factory one. And now we can actually start bringing over all the stone related storage drawers that we have back at home. So we'll start out by bringing out the base blocks, so none of the crafted, chipped or cut versions. Here we can organize them, set them up in the order that we want them to be, and then it's just a matter to bring over the rest of the drawers, plop them down, and start organizing all the stuff that we have. It took me a couple of hours, but I have it down. All the vanilla based blocks are over in this section. The create blocks like Viridian and stuff are at the back, and the smaller section is all about the random blocks that I couldn't sort into those two categories. Now we need to get a building around this, and since we've already done 2 of those in this episode, I will just speed through it and you can watch some highlights of it. After building the building around the storage room, I did do another stream and we decided to make some signs. I'm just finishing up the last one, and yeah, that's the name of the refinery. We also made signs to make the portal hub easier to navigate, and they look like this. We set up a little template so they all have the same vibe. It's just another color palette. You might also notice that we put down a bit of a floor texture to tie everything together, but with that, I think it's time to add a couple more containers to the cobblestone monorail. We'll set up a gray container with the same setup, identical to the yellow one, and then it's just a matter of copying the existing train schedule and setting the gray one loose to go and pick up its first load of cobblestone. We'll do the same thing with a sign container, and that's about that. We have 3 containers on the cobble carousel, and I think that is the perfect time to end the episode right here. I hope you've enjoyed it enough to subscribe, like the video, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!